This episode of Her Design, Her Story is proudly sponsored by Royal Oak Floors, the founders of engineered oak flooring in Australia. Elegant yet durable, practical yet luxurious, Royal Oak Floors have formed the foundations of inspiring Australian architecture and interior design for over 20 years, with flooring products that are uniquely tailored to Australian lifestyles. Royal Oak Floors is proud to announce the launch of 4 new colours in its renowned Architect collection, the result of collaborative workshops in which design professionals shared emerging trends, unmet needs, and evolving preferences in Australian interiors. We're proud to partner with a brand that values craftsmanship, sustainability, and the stories behind every space. Explore the new colours at royaloakfloors.com.au. Today, we're at the home of Kelly Thompson, an illustrator, designer, stylist, creative director, speaker, and all-round creative powerhouse. Kelly's career is a wonderful example of following your curiosity and allowing your creative path to evolve with you. She began her career as a fashion photographer before somewhat accidentally finding her way into illustration, eventually becoming a highly regarded creative talent whose work has appeared in many design books all around the world. Over the years, Kelly has worked across illustration, styling, interiors, creative consultation, and event hosting, bringing an incredibly distinctive eye and a generosity of spirit to everything she does. Her illustration work has spanned everything from perfume and food packaging to editorial, textiles, and wallpaper. Her approach to interiors is also dynamic, centered around individuality, independent designers, and vintage pieces rather than always following trends. Today we discuss her unconventional pathway, her key work experiences, and the importance of following your intuition. Kelly, welcome to Her Design, Her Story. Thank you so much for having us in your beautiful home today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really looking forward to speaking with you. You have had an incredible career. You've covered a lot of ground. You're a fellow New Zealander, which is very exciting. I did want to go back to the beginning of your study journey. You started, I know, in photography in New Zealand. Yeah. Could you talk me through those first experiences when you left school?
So when I first left school, I had a Bachelor of Design with honours and I'd majored in photography. And at that time, everybody was going overseas and doing NEOE and going to London. And I was like, no, I'm a photographer. I was so
committed,
so nerdy. I was just like, I'm staying and I'm working. And so I spent a lot of my time, because I was a young female photographer, I was kind of lucky that a lot of the modelling agencies in Auckland, I lived in Wellington, they really wanted me to shoot the young models. So the models who were like 14 or 15 and just going, like really young models, because I was, a female and less intimidating for them and kind of, I guess, not safer because the male photographers were not unsafe.
Yeah, but it was quite different.
Yeah, I was approachable. So I used to fly up to Auckland all the time. There was a woman called Amanda who was amazing and she had a modelling agency. She took me under her wing and she could see that I was driven and she took advantage of it. Yeah. So she'd be like, yeah, we've got 9 models for you to shoot, and then I'd turn up and there'd be like 22 models for me to shoot. And so she definitely worked it. But it was really good for me because I really just gained so much experience as a photographer, but also I just did it by myself. Like I didn't have crew or anything. So I feel like that was the beginning of me being a little bit of a hustler, like having to pull it all together and do all the jobs myself. So that's how I started. And then I've talked about this before where when you're shooting a young model, that was the time of America's Next Top Model and all of those shows, you know? And so they come in and they've been reading all these fashion magazines and they're so posy. And so they're all like this and like this. And you're like, oh God, kind of thing.
Relax.
Yeah. But then there's this really lovely moment where they start to settle with you. And you can almost see it in, I want to say a roller film, but it was digital. It's like pose. And then there's this one photo where they just fall into themselves and they look so beautiful. And I became really interested in that moment. And I'd kind of been like, when I finished my degree, I did an illustration paper and got the best marks of my degree and was like, oh, damn, maybe I made the wrong choice. But I started to get back into illustrating when I first was working as a photographer, mainly because I was so poor that I
Yeah.
couldn't afford to party. And
Yeah.
so I used to just
Very important.
stay home and draw. And so I became really interested in that moment when the girls just fell into themselves and
Yeah.
looked really soft and beautiful. And I started to draw that.
Oh, amazing.
And so that was kind of the start of me drawing like females. And then I had an exhibition, and then I sold heaps of work. And then that kind of started the role of the illustration kind of passion, I guess. And so then started to exhibit a little bit, and then I got an agent in New Zealand, International Rescue. And so then I was a commercially represented illustrator, which was really exciting for me.
Incredible.
And that was kind of before social media. It was before, like, there was MySpace, I think. I remember being on the cover of MySpace one day and being like, yeah, on the front page.
I've made it.
Felt so cool. But that was when people actually published your work in books. So I had my work published all around the world, and like in magazines like Monster Children and
Oh, wow.
like places like that. And there was a book called Curvy, and Curvy was like a celebration of female graphic design and illustration talent. And so I started to get in the Curvy book every year. So the illustration just really kind of took off. But then I left New Zealand in 2010 to travel. And while I was away, I just spent all my money.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Melbourne at the end of 2010, and my camera died, and I just didn't have enough money to buy a camera. And so that was kind of the end of my photography at that time.
That's it. We're over.
Just like, it just had this error that couldn't be repaired. And then that I just like, well, I can't afford to buy a new one. I didn't have insurance. And so then I just started to draw. And then I actually got a job at the Jackie Winter Group.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I became one of their agents for illustrators, which was amazing for me because I got to see things that no illustrators would get to see. Like, I got to see how every single illustrator was charging what like a big budget project would be as far as value, what an editorial job would be as far as value. I got to see how they did all the paperwork and how they got to do all the negotiating and everything, which is just amazing knowledge to have as a creative, because you don't get taught that at school.
No, and I think particularly in a field like illustration, perhaps, which is quite niche as well, and the types of projects you're doing are probably not as linear as maybe interior design or something. You're really...
Everything changes, like every project's different.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I did a Bachelor of Design with a photography major, and they didn't teach me about licensing in my entire 4-year degree, which is so crazy. And so, you know, like, you don't know how to charge, you don't know how to license. And so working for Jackie Winter, I got to see all of that and learning about the percentages and everything. And that was just invaluable for me as far as like setting me up business wise for a creative career, which was, they need to put that on a website somewhere.
I feel like there are a lot of gaps. I studied architecture, and even then I remember we did a very quick unit on business sort of management, or I can't even remember what they called it.
For like 3 weeks or something.
And you get out into reality and you kind of can see why so many people struggle, because actually a large part of it as a creative person, if you ultimately are marketing yourself, that's actually there's a huge wealth of information missing.
I remember one of my photography teachers, she's quite a famous New Zealand photographer.
Yeah.
And I was working in retail at the start when I first left university while I was trying to build my photography work up. And she came into the store that I was working in, and I was like, how come we just did this whole degree and I don't know anything about business? And she was like, what we do is we teach you how to think so you can come up with great ideas. And I was like, what good is being able to think if you can't actually turn that into
execute it?
Into a job or into, you know, like your business or into your purpose. Like, cool, I've got all these great ideas, but I don't know how to make any money off them. You know? Maybe fine for her if she's an artist and she then became a teacher to teach what she's doing, but it's just not practical for the modern world where we actually have to make money.
And I think also obviously all that online thing, I know that's quite a big thing with photography now. Certainly if I get a project photographed, it's always that sort of diplomatic line with photographer, and images can get shared so easily and manipulated as well. I just had that recently where they'd taken the photography and actually changed the colour saturation, and I hadn't had, you know, it always takes a first thing to happen. And you think, I actually need to think about that.
Totally. I saw David the Medium. I saw that he's being like cloned by AI now, and they're like a deep fake AI of him is on the internet just like selling his medium work or trying to sell courses or whatever, and he's just like, that's not me. So it's going to get worse.
That's crazy.
No, scary.
So how long were you with the Jackie Winter group for?
So I think I worked there for, it might have been like a year and a half. And that was when they were kind of young. So it was me and a girl called Fuchsia, and we kind of managed, I think there were 70 artists at the time. And between the two of us and Jeremy, the boss, we kind of managed the project, and there was a marketing girl called Monica who was amazing as well. But then while I was working there, I got tapped on the shoulder by Grey Paris. They're a big advertising agency over there, and they were like, we want you to pitch for the Escada perfume, new fragrance, packaging, and point of sale, like worldwide. And I was like, wow. And so I was working, I don't know, like 9 till 5 or whatever at Jackie Winter. And then every night I would go home and work on Paris hours for the pitch for the Escada project.
Yeah.
And it was a horrible pitch. It went for, I feel like it was October that they approached me, and then the pitch ended up going until like February, and then they didn't tell me until May or something. Like it was really, really dragged out. And it was between me and 7 other artists from around the world. And it was like a TV show where one person gets eliminated every week kind of thing, and it's really stressful. And I remember the day that they contacted me and they were like, you won the project. And I was like in bed, and I just like jumped out of bed, and I was like running around the house. I was like, finally. And then I actually said to my boss at Jackie Winter, I was like, I've won this amazing project. Can I just go part-time for a little bit so I can do this? Because it was like a career
Life-changing.
Yeah. And he was like, I don't think we can do that because it's not fair on everyone else who works there. And that was kind of, I think that was way before COVID and everything, where people weren't working hybrid or like part-time, you know, like it was kind of
it's shifted quite a lot.
And so I just felt like I couldn't say no to this opportunity. And so I actually left, and I worked on that project for, it was ages, forever. It was kind of horrible because there was one, it was like a picture of a girl, and she was surrounded by tropical birds and all sorts of things, but they made me revise her mouth probably 25 times. And so like just getting her smile perfect. And it's so crazy when clients ask you to do things like that, because you just lose your visual perspective. You're like, I can't even tell what her mouth looks like anymore, you know? It's quite a hard job. But when it came out, it was so exciting for me because it was in every single airport all around the world. They had like all of these amazing point of sale displays, and they had like big swings and big parrots, and all of my illustrations were like on thongs and like on cocktail shakers and all sorts of stuff. So that was kind of like quite a big boost, I guess, for my career. And it also changed my style, the way I draw as well, because I used to do all of these very soft feminine pencil illustrations. I didn't use much color, but when I worked on that job, they kept being like more color, and so that really shifted the way I even approached my personal work after that, because after that I added a lot more color into everything that I did. And I guess now people will probably describe, say, my florals, for example, are quite colorful.
I think color.
And that all kind of came from after that job. So it's always, I always think about that, because often it's the clients that are the most horrible clients who actually push you the most creatively.
Just don't take the first iteration.
And sometimes, like, even though sometimes you hate it at the time.
Often
afterwards you're like, oh, actually that was quite good that they kept pushing me because it helped me evolve my style, or I learned something in that process that's valuable for me later on.
Yeah, that's incredible. So did that sort of lend itself to more people approaching you to do illustration work?
So before that, a lot of my work was like beauty. It was like portraits and beauty and fashion work. But then after that, it really moved more into the botanicals and more into the nature focused work. So that was really cool. So I'd done work for, say, like Maybelline and CoverGirl and people like that prior. But then afterwards, I got a lot more work with packaging, because it was all on packaging. I got a lot more work with packaging, and also, say, like health brands, like health foods or vitamin brands and things like that. So it definitely shifted the way my work was perceived. And it actually kind of opened a new folio for me, because before it was all beauty and pretty girls and fashion. And then after that, I actually started like a new folio that was dedicated to botanicals and florals, and that's really what I do now.
That's incredible. You have, I know, over the years from then branched out into all sorts of really interesting. No, I think it's really interesting, and I think that's shows an incredible amount of evolution as
Yeah.
well, that ability to kind of explore different pathways. I know you do a bit of interior styling as well. Did that sort of evolve as just a natural evolution of the work you were doing?
Yeah, that didn't really come so much from my work, but that kind of came from like Instagram, I think launched in 2012.
I can't even remember
Yeah.
now.
So before that, I was just
Actually been
drawing,
a while,
drawing,
hasn't
drawing.
it?
Yeah, it's been ages now. And so my interior work kind of came after Instagram launched. I used to share a lot of my illustration work, but then I would share like me in the room that I was in, or like me behind the scenes, and then I might talk about something that I liked in my house, and then people would be like, "Oh, what's that chair in the background?" or what's whatever. And so very organically people became not only interested in my illustration work, but also interested in my personal style and then my home style. And then when I moved into this house, it was just a white box when I moved in, and I just started to document the journey of me coloring it in.
Yeah, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, which people
watching.
loved.
Yep.
And so it
sounds a bit weird saying that to you, but it is. I think it's those sort of personal journeys, and it's very real and natural. You know, it's just ultimately your style evolving.
And also before I moved into this house, I started Makers Market. And so that was a store that championed Australian and New Zealand designers predominantly. And so that was all ceramics and homewares and art. And then so that kind of introduced me, I guess, into like more of the homeware space, which was always things that I was interested in. And so that kind of launched, and then I started doing my own house, and then people were like, "Oh, all of these interior things," and then people were like, "Can you do that for my house? Can I work with you?"
Amazing.
And then I started to work for other interior designers, mainly as like a assistant stylist on shoots and things like that. And then it's all so organic. Like I never was like, I'm going to be a stylist. I'm going to make a plan and I'm going to get it done. It was more just like, oh, this is what I'm doing, and people are interested in it. Oh, someone's asking me about it, and just kind of like lean into it, you know. I feel like none of the things that I've really done for my work or career have ever been things that I've really concrete decided on. You know? Even like how I became an illustrator because my camera broke, you know?
Yeah.
And then with Makers Market, it was more like I know so many amazing creative people, but nobody else knows how to find their work, or my friends were always asking me, where do I find things? And so then I was like, well, maybe I'll make a site where everyone can find it, you know? And so that kind of also very organically flowed. It's just never, and I'm also someone who's like, if I just say Makers Market, it would have been like Monday, I was like, that's an idea. Friday, I was doing it.
Which is amazing, because I think we were talking earlier about that sort of moments of interest. I think, and for me, it's those moments where people have an idea and actually action it. I think it's so easy to think about things, or I can be very good at procrastinating. I think that's a problem for next week. So actually the doing, and you know, there's with everything that, you know, there's a challenge. I was speaking to a gorgeous girl the other day who's taking a bit of a leap with a business, and she's in the deep end with council and regulation, and you know, she's like, oh, permits it. But I think sometimes when you just go for it, it's amazing what you can achieve in quite a small amount of time.
And also I feel like a lot of the time, if you sit down and do a pros and cons list, you're probably going to freak yourself out. You know, like lots of the things that I learned while doing Makers Market, some of it was a massive drainer, and if I'd known about that in advance, I might have been like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. And so sometimes I feel like it's just better to leap and figure it out as you go. And I feel like that can often be much more positive than making sure that everything's in place and you have the perfect branding and you have everything perfect and like all laid out, and then you're like, ta-da. I think it's kind of better just to be like, this is what I'm working on, and I'm just going to do it, and then we'll just see how it goes. And then, you know, I quite like an organic
I think, and that's
flow.
a wonderful theme as well, as that almost that testing of what sort of naturally resonates with people. I think with that Instagram as well, I mean, there's some really wonderful people. I've certainly enjoy your Instagram, and I think it's that personable, very honest journey, which people enjoy. But I think that in itself naturally lends itself to an audience, and it's that natural sense of growth rather than exactly like you say.
And people love seeing the journey. Like they like it when I share that I'm having a shitty day, you know? And I think that's really nice, because people, I feel like people respect you, and people also get more involved with it. They're like, they want you to succeed because they've seen how much work you
can
put
do
into
it.
it. And also like, I'm just like, I don't really feel I'm not afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Like lots of time, even when I'm painting the house, people are like, what if you don't like the color? I'm like, I'll just paint it again.
Yeah.
Like I don't, with everything that I do, I don't really think about failing.
Yeah.
And even like I closed Maker's Market, and that wasn't because nothing was going bad or anything. It just was that I was having a terrible time in my personal life, and I just couldn't deal with couriers and
How long did Maker's Market go for?
So I had it from 2018 until 2024. So it's quite a
well, and you
amount
got
of
through the
time.
COVID
Well,
period
COVID
as well.
was the best time.
Yeah,
for Maker's
everyone's
Market
buying
'cause everyone was
things.
buying things, and it was like that was the time where like pastel and checkered, and you know how those trends were really strong, and I had some cute younger makers who were making those things, and they just sold and sold and sold. And my partner at the time, he had like a really successful business that was just like, oh fuck, kind of thing during COVID. And we joked that Maker's Market would just keep everything afloat because it was going so well. But then when that relationship ended, it unfortunately coincided with Maker's Market needing like to boost up to the next level. So it was like you either need to get a storefront, or I need to get more staff, or really invest in it. And unfortunately, because of the way that relationship ended, I was mid mental breakdown, and I just couldn't deal with. I didn't have, you know how you have that like push and that drive, and you can just dig deep and get stuff done. I didn't have any of that at that time, and Maker's Market really needed that. So,
and I think courageous in a sense that you knew when to diplomatically draw a line, because sometimes people do think, oh, well, everyone's expecting me to do X, Y, Z. At the end of the day, no one actually knows what's going on, and you're the person that has to live with that at the end of the day.
I mean, I was really sad to close Maker's Market because I loved it, and I loved the makers, and I loved like it was so satisfying for me, and even is now, because some of the makers that I stocked, I was their first stockist, and now they've become like really established great designers or really beautiful ceramicists, and it's really nice to be part of that journey. And I really enjoyed kind of being a little stepping stone for them to help them get into their work or get more customers or make more money so that they could survive. So it was really sad for me, but I do still have the Instagram, and I do still have all of the things, and maybe one day it'll
never
come
know.
back in a different incarnation. You never know with me.
Well, so I'm sitting here looking at a very beautiful stall, which is probably slightly off camera. I'll have to take a photo, that you have designed and had manufactured in Melbourne. So I feel like one of the sentiments I love with a lot of what you're saying is that no opportunity is wasted. And I think every facet of what we do, whether it's a degree that you might think,
whether you worked as an accountant and now you're a designer, you know,
that everything can kind of come back into what you're doing.
Exactly.
There must be an element of, I guess, a culmination of skill that you have had in the past, being able to bring furniture to life yourself. Has that been quite a fun process to go through? Yeah.
So I've always wanted to make things myself, and then when I had Maker's Market and just seeing all the amazing things that everyone was making, I was like, I want to make stuff too.
Yeah.
And then I've just never done it. And also this was also partially to do with the relationship that I was in wasn't a relationship that encouraged me as a creative. Like I was like the lesser. You know, some people are like, don't value creativity. And I was in a relationship with someone who didn't. And so I never felt like I could do things like that. And it was actually quite bad for my self-esteem as a creative. And so now that I'm not in that relationship, it's been really nice for me to really like settle back into myself again and be like, what do I want to do and what can I do, and not have someone poo-pooing it or being like, well, how much is that going to cost? Or like, is it going to be worth it
questioning the value.
Or like, what is the value? What are you spending your time on this when you could just go get a full-time job kind of thing, you know? Like, and so it's been really nice for me to just do things because I want to do them and because I love them and I want to make something beautiful, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily for any purpose other than expressing myself creatively and making something beautiful.
Which obviously,
really nice.
but it obviously resonates with people. You're still doing a lot of incredible illustration work, which is really exciting. I still
have a job. I'm still working. But on the side, I'm also thinking like, what do I want to make as a creative person? You know? Like I found it really interesting because it was quite a traumatic way that our relationship ended. Like it was really bad, and I had to get a lot of therapy for it, and it was horrible. But I always look for the positives in things, and it's been really interesting since then because it's really encouraged me to, I guess, think about who am I and what do I want from my life, and really think about what makes me happy. You know, like when you're a kid, how there are like things that you're just so excited about and that you're really drawn to, and then you kind of turn into an adult and
I know, we're
get
saying that
serious
to
and
a
you don't
friend.
play.
When did we
Yeah.
lose that moment of sheer excitement about
Yeah.
going on a trip somewhere
Yeah.
or going to see a show or something?
Exactly.
It's
Or like
different.
the feeling of awe, or
Yeah.
like, you know, just like, where is that like passionate excitement and love for things? And so I've really been thinking about like, what is it that I really love, and
Yeah.
what gives me that feeling of satisfaction, and what do I want my world to look like, you know? Like even my house, I'm like, I want it to be more than what it is now, you know? Like I want
Yeah.
it to be more layered and multifaceted and like more textural, and I feel like the stools is just the beginning of me expressing more of my true self
Yeah.
as a designer. And I also feel like that's probably an age thing as well, when you, like how we were talking before, like you feel more like in yourself, and I'm like, this is what I
Or
like, and
less
this is what I
worried,
do.
I guess,
Yeah.
about what other people
Totally.
might be thinking.
And I don't
or,
care
yeah.
about Instagram trends, and I don't care what someone else thinks is cool. I think this is cool, so I'm going to make it, and hopefully someone else does too.
Yeah, and I also think you think of how many things wouldn't have happened in the world if people weren't prepared to take the
right,
risk.
exactly. And it's not like
Or
I'm
if we're
making
all like in very rigid work situations.
totally. And it's
Yeah.
not like I'm making a heap of them. They're made to order. So
Yeah.
if no one orders them, no, it doesn't matter. I don't have
Yeah.
a warehouse full of stock or anything. So
Yeah.
I feel like this is just the start of me kind of having a play and being like, what else can I make? I think next year for Melbourne Design Week, I might do a show and maybe do like a 5 or 7 piece furniture collection or something.
Yeah, beautiful. I did want to touch actually on
that?
some of the other work that another facet you've been working in. I know you're really prolific working with a lot of New Zealand brands that are looking at
over here.
moving into the Australian market.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit around that role, and then I'd love to talk about how that sort of evolved into
Yeah,
Melbourne Design
sure.
Week for you.
So it's kind of funny because I've always just, obviously you go to university with all these people and you go to design school and
Yeah.
we're all just drunk students together.
Yeah.
And then, 10 years later or whatever, they're all the head designers of a fashion brand, or they've all got these great jobs in advertising, and it's so interesting to see where people end up.
Yeah.
But I've always been like remained friendly with people, and I've always maintained relationships. So it's always interesting because now that we're all adults together, they'll contact me and be like, hey, we want to collab, or we want to create a print for a product, or hey, what do you think about Fitzroy if we're going to open a store or whatever.
Yeah.
And then New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, they actually kind of saw that I was doing this a little bit, or they saw my Instagram, how I was always talking about New Zealand brands and how much I love them. And then they just started to ask me questions on behalf of their clients. And then last year, Wilson and Dorset, who are a sheepskin brand from New Zealand,
Yeah.
they had a meeting with me because they wanted to increase their presence in Australia, or Melbourne in particular.
Yeah.
And they were like, what do you think we should do? So I threw them a few ideas, and one of the ideas was that I was like, well, why don't you, instead of doing a trade show or something that's
Yeah.
very commercially driven, why don't you do something creatively driven and do something for Melbourne Design Week and involve, like really recognized up and coming or established just cool designers here? And they were like, oh yeah, cool idea. And then a couple of months later, they contacted me and they were just like, hey, that idea? Do you want to do it for us?
How
And I was
amazing.
like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended up, I think it was 13 designers in the end that I curated for them. And then we gave them each like 8 sheepskins, and then they all made whatever they wanted. And then we put the show on at Melbourne Design Week, which
Yeah.
was just crazy successful for them. They were like, it's so much more popular, so much more successful than any trade show that we've
And
ever done.
Interesting way to show a product that ultimately a lot of people are quite familiar with in terms of how
in a
they
different
traditionally
way.
look.
Yeah. And I think
Yep.
like, because I do obviously a lot of social media work and work a lot with PR companies, sometimes I feel like they just regurgitate the same ideas over and over.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, why don't you get a creative person to come up with the ideas? I
Exactly.
think that's
Yeah.
why it went down really well with Wilson and Dorset, because it wasn't something that they'd heard before. And so then after that, New Zealand Trade and Enterprise were like, we want you to be one of our beachhead advisors officially. So now I'm
Oh,
on the
amazing.
board, well, not on the board, on the advisory board. And so now,
So exciting.
yeah, so that's cool. So
Yeah.
now any other brands who want to come into Australia, if they need a creative brain, because they have finance brains and importing export brains and business CEOs and all sorts of
Yeah.
people on that board. So now I'm officially one of their people.
That's exciting. And I
cool,
think
yeah.
that also speaks to that idea of the importance of relationships. I
Yeah.
think so much of what, I see in the work that you're doing is really built off that sense of, you're obviously very generous with your time and knowledge sharing, but
Yeah.
also that sense of open collaboration and opportunity
Yeah.
and trust with people.
Exactly.
Which probably even goes back to that initial conversation, talking about photography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. And even like the artists that I asked to be part of the Melbourne Design Week show, they were all artists that I either admire or I'm friends with them, or we just chat randomly on Instagram. So you feel like you have that relationship. So I'm very much about, I feel like you always have to be careful. Well, not careful. You just have to always be nice to people, always be on time, because you never know in 15 years how that relationship might become valuable or it might loop back around again.
It's funny. I've actually started having that conversation with my daughter who's on the cusp of 13. We were talking about something and I think there have been a few things recently where people have looped back into our lives where, you honestly think,
yeah,
I wasn't sure if I'd ever see you again. Not in a terrible way, but just, you just think, time's passed. But no, I think that is really imperative actually. And it's often the thing that can't be taught.
No.
It's actually quite intuitive.
Yeah, I think, you're so right actually, because sometimes you meet people and you're just like, okay, you're an email person.
Yeah, or like the gauge on the relationship is tricky. I did want to ask, I know you grew up in Rotorua in New Zealand, which... No, it's good. We used to spend a lot of holidays
I always say
there.
It was character building stuff.
I haven't been there. No, it's actually one of those places my kids are desperate to go to.
I'd say go for 3 days.
So well known. Did you have sort of creative people in your family who encouraged you when you were younger? What was your sort of...
My granddad, he was a police officer. I mean, they had like specific police cops versus other cops, and he technically wasn't creative, but he taught me how to draw initially. You know how when you're a kid you draw like the little square house with the square windows and you do the 2 lines up the side to make a three-dimensional box. So he taught me how to do that, and then he really encouraged me to draw. And then
gorgeous.
My dad's actually, when I was younger, he was a joiner. So he built a lot of the furniture in our house, and he built our house. Yeah. So I was always kind of
handy.
I know.
Need a joiner in my life.
I was always in his workshop, just covered in sawdust, and I love the smell of sawdust as an adult. But I spent a lot of my time in his workshop. I really regret not learning any skills while I was in the workshop.
Yeah.
But I actually started to draw. Like I was a really awkward, funny kid. Like I was teased a lot because I had buck teeth and I had really fuzzy hair and acne, and it was just like, and didn't get boobs phages. You know how girls are mean when you're young. So I was bullied a lot. My nickname was the Hitty Beast, which was the hideous beast, which is cool. And so I used to get bullied a lot and be really upset a lot. And so that's actually when I started to draw. So I used to my mum bought me a book called Rembrandt to Renoir, which is all the beautiful portraits and things. And I used to copy those with watercolor. So I just was a bit of a nerd, having a bit of a wear and just drawing away my sadness.
Obviously very naturally talented.
Yeah,
I think I look at people like yourself draw. I loved drawing, but I never quite nailed it. I feel
well, lots of people say that to me, but I think that
abstract.
I think if you continued on, then you probably would have nailed it.
Yeah, it was actually, I loved, I was saying to you before, I had this incredible head of our art department at school, and I always wanted to do architecture. So I did a lot of design subjects and things. And my mum was going through something recently and she found a lot of artwork from when I was at school. And I thought, I wish I'd actually kept up a bit of painting. Yeah. I found college and going out and all that fell to the wayside.
Got drunk. Especially in New Zealand.
Basically.
Yeah, and I used to always make out of boxes. Because I also wanted to be an architect at one stage, and I used to always make little 3-dimensional houses and then draw on massive sheets of paper like streets, and then my brother and I would put the paper the box houses around the street, and then we would play with the matchbox cars and just drive around the streets and houses. So, but we used to make all of the toy ourselves basically.
Yeah.
So I was always like a massive tomboy and like in the dirt and in the trees and making stuff. Like I was very hands on, and I was always in, like, this was back in the 80s, 90s, and so I was always just outside and free. And I think that's really good for your creative brain because you're always playing and mucking stuff up and hurting yourself and learning stuff.
Yeah, it was funny. One of my girls got given this book where it's creations out of Lego, but it's not sort of out of a box. Yeah. And she looked at me so matter of factly. She said, well, how am I supposed to make that? I said, well, we've got so many pieces of
And we've
Lego.
got so much time.
But, you know, it was funny because all that stuff now, I used to spend hours with my brother building our Lego into these little like houses and things. I loved it. And it was even, she just couldn't see past the
rules,
the image on the box. She's like, yeah, but it's not I'm like, it's still Lego. We just had this ridiculous argument the other night. I'm like, I give
You're like,
up.
okay, I'm
But
going
it
to go
was
do my
that
Lego and you
peripheral
can read a book.
thinking. I know. I was like, it's so in her head. It was so
the
prescriptive.
rules. And I found like when I finished university, actually, because I was, you know, like you're constantly given a brief and a deadline, a brief and a deadline. And probably for the first year or so after I graduated, I felt like I couldn't think of an idea myself. Like I was so used to have someone be like, this is what you got to do and this is when you got to get it done. And then I was like, I really want to do some things and like be an artist. But then I felt like I couldn't. I felt really like this would be the movement for it. Like I felt really uptight and really caged and like I couldn't do anything without someone telling me what to do, which I found kind of interesting. And I quite often think about that. But yeah, now I've always got ideas. Yeah, and it's fine.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you from that sense of inspiration, if whether it's to a client brief or doing something for yourself, are there any particular ways that you, I guess, you know, we can be inspired on different scales, whether it's something we do every day at home or if it's a particular magazine or book, or is there any way that you sort of, if you're starting a new project or trying to find ideas?
I never look at Instagram or other people's work. So I never want to, because when I first started, I used to be so inspired by all of these artists and I always found that I would pretty much copy them.
It's hard sometimes to take the components.
I really wish that you almost like wish that you were that person and you could do it their way when you first start out. So now I don't look at, I mean, I wouldn't copy anyone anymore, but I don't look at other people's work. Instead, I go out in nature a lot. Like I'll do some gardening and I walk. I
know you've got some wonderful plants out there.
It's a bit of a mess
looking out
right
the
now.
window. No, it's great.
And I do a heap of walking. So I always find I won't wear headphones and I won't have any music or anything. I just walk and walk. And it's amazing how your brain just ticks over and filters through things and just clears
calming,
you.
Yeah.
And then I always find that after that, or the same as when you're on a holiday, you know, like when you're on holiday, you have so many ideas. I think you just need brain space to have the inspiration. So I try and just make time for that. I meditate once or twice a day, either before bed or sometimes morning and night if I don't have something early on in the morning. And I really just, I don't know, I feel like I'm quite true to myself as far as like what I like and what I don't like. And now it's more like, what do I want to create? You know, like more like, what do I want to see myself in the world? And so I feel like same with the stools, like that's why I'm making that now, because that's something I couldn't find and I want to see, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, lately I've also been randomly inspired by things that people have said to me. So say, for example, my boyfriend was pretty cute and he was going to Japan and I was like, how do I make you feel? And he was like, you make me feel warm and fuzzy. And then I like turned that into an embroidery, which was part of a show for Melbourne Design Week. And I've really started to like, one day we broke up at the beginning of our relationship and I was driving home having a bit of a sulk and I was like, I'm just like a romantic waiting for a chance. It's like, why won't anyone give me a chance to be a romantic girl? And I turned that into a t-shirt.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so it's actually kind of interesting. It's so funny because I only started meditating this year. And that was because, so I've got PTSD from that breakup, which I had to get treatment for. And then for this year, I had my first PTSD trigger, which you always hear about, but I didn't actually know what that meant, and it's not very nice. And so I started to meditate as part of my therapy to deal with that flare up. And it's been so interesting because since I've started to do the meditation, it's just like my ideas just flow. Like I feel like the tap is just on and I could just write a list for people every day of things that I want to do or things that I want to make or ideas that I've had.
I think with those practices which have been around really for such a long time, there's a reason
I know
that they've, lasted the test of time. I know I often think I am terrible if I'm really amped up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I was sort of going through this phase. I'm like, I have a glass of wine and then I'll have melatonin and I'll start again tomorrow. And it's not a great way to wind down.
And it's so interesting because everyone's like, you just got to stick at it. And you're like, yeah, whatever. You do it 3 times and you quit kind of thing. But it actually is amazing when you do stick at it, how it really does change. Because we're at the start, like one of the meditations that I do, the whole idea is that instead of thinking about what you want, you have to feel what it would feel like if you already had what you wanted.
Oh, I love that.
And so like if you want to have love or money, instead of being like, I want to have love and money and my house is going to look like this, you need to be like, what would I feel like on my insides if I already had that?
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're making your body believe that you always had it. And at the start, I'd just be lying there and the guy would be like, now imagine blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, all I feel is anxiety. How do I feel love? I can't get through the anxiety. You know?
Wow,
like I just felt so like in my insides. But just through keeping at it and keeping at it and keeping at it, now it's flipped so that the anxiety is not the main feeling that I have. It's the other way around. And now
That's
I can
incredible.
access those nice feelings so much easier. So it really is just a bit of brain training. And
everything
patience.
sort of feeds into each other a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah.
And also being gentle on yourself, like some nights, and when I try and do my meditation, I'm just thinking of all these ideas or thinking about my day or whatever. And then I just think this isn't a fail. At least you've done it. It might not be perfect today, but it'll be better tomorrow,
Yeah.
And just being kinder.
And having
like,
that
I can't do it.
I know. I need to get better at actually winding down a bit like that. I think I'm not very good at just having 5 minutes of not being on a screen or replying to an email or, your brain's sort of ticking over so quickly.
Well, now I try and like it's no emails after 7:30. I try and put my phone down after dinner. And even now, say like I'll have a shower before I go to bed, I'll hop into bed and I'll either read or do my meditation, but I try and get my phone away. So I'm like, get out of my face,
Yeah, I went through a phase of reading a lot of Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, yeah.
And my one takeaway from that, I've got one sentence that I always try and come back to. I've let it go a bit recently. It's just that being in the moment.
Yeah.
Just being okay with being where you are.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that was one of the main things because for like the 3 years prior to my PTSD trigger, I was just like, I'm firing all cylinders. I'm confident. I'm happy. Everything's great. And then when that happened, I just felt so devastated because I thought I'd worked through all of that stuff and that it was gone and that I was great.
It's always and never quite.
Yeah. I mean, you never really get rid of it. But one of the things that a few of the people who I was seeing to help me through it had said was that you've just got to, like, I always was saying, I should be better by now. I should be through this by now. Why is this? Why I always want to fix it? And they was constantly reminding me, like, you just have to be like, this is where I am right now. I know what the difference is to feel good and I know what it feels like to feel bad. You will get back to good again and just be patient. Like, just let your body do what it needs to do in this moment. Like, maybe take a little bit more time off work, just like rest, don't put pressure on yourself, but just like let it flow through you, instead of trying to like push it out and like force it to be better or like bury it.
Yeah, it's really like getting through a grief.
Yeah, it really,
loss.
really is.
Yeah, and I feel like it's often that thing. I remember a friend once was going through something and someone said to her, oh, with time you'll get over it. And I thought, no, she won't. She'll just learn how to manage it and live with it, rather like you don't even get over it.
Nah.
Yeah.
And I also think that a lot of these things that you would, I don't know, typically label as bad, like in 2017, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue and I couldn't really walk that much for like that whole year.
Yeah.
And obviously like that's bad. But then from that experience, that's why I started my old garden. Like, that's why I started thinking about my food more and growing veggies, and like that really changed a lot of my life, which now makes my life richer and better now. So
yeah,
a lot of these things you're like, oh, this is shit thing happened to me, but then in hindsight it was a blessing,
Yeah.
And I also feel like the horrible thing that happened to me, it has been a blessing. It's still working on it, but it's on the way to becoming a blessing, and like I've learned so much about my resilience and like what I want from my life and what isn't okay with me and all sorts of things. And I feel like overall it's just great perspective,
Yeah, I was going to say to you, I think you're obviously at a wonderful time in your life at the moment where you can reflect, but also there's lots of great things ahead.
Yeah.
You speaking about resilience, are there any other key personal attributes which you have? I guess a lot of it's about learning how far we can push ourselves.
Yes.
But that you feel have really helped you get to where you are now.
I'm pretty much always nice to everybody. Like I always make time for conversation and people, and I never feel like, how some people have this air of being better than you, or I'm up here and you're down there. I always feel like everyone is equal and everyone is the same, and I think that is a nice way to approach life. I'm also in general always optimistic and relatively happy. Like I don't get grumpy or
Which is
moody.
pretty incredible because I feel like
Well, yeah, it's been tested.
a lot of people aren't. Yeah.
And I always try and like if I'm working with a client, I'm always on time. I'm always like organized, and that's really good, I think, for my reputation as a designer as well. But overall, I think the main thing that has led to where I am now, or the success, I guess, is that I just do it, you know, like I don't, like how we said before, I don't plan it for a year. If it's an idea, I start working on it, you know, I start chipping away. And I think lots of people get really, they see the big picture and they freak out.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm just like, well, today I can do this one little thing, and then tomorrow I'll do the next little thing. And I just like chip away at stuff and chip away at stuff. And that's the same as my house. Sometimes people are like, I can't believe you did all that by yourself. Weren't you terrified? And I was like, no, I just picked up a paintbrush and started in the corner.
It's amazing. Spend all afternoon in here. It's great. I also just wanted a sort of final question, I guess. I know you've got all these wonderful facets of work on at the moment. What does this next sort of 12 months look like for you? Will you be back at Design Week, hopefully?
Yes. So Wilson and Dorset's coming back for Design Week next year, but bigger. So that's really exciting, and I'm going to be doing that for them.
I'll make sure I'm here this year. It's a bit of a fail.
This year was great
timed,
too.
Yeah.
So, but next year I think will be better, because now that the convent is kind of the hub, it's just such a great place where there's lots of things going on, so you can see lots of things at once, which I think is really valuable. So I'll be doing that. I think I'm also going to do a show for myself during Melbourne Design Week, which is cool. And then I just last night was awarded pretty much my dream illustration project.
Oh, that's incredible.
It won't come out until 2027 Christmas, but it's a big Christmas project with a very well recognized luxury brand. Like, it's a career highlight kind of project.
Oh, that's incredible.
I'm going to be drawing pretty frantically
for
a little while. And I'm going to be doing some ongoing work for Wilson and Dorset as well. So a few things.
Busy year ahead.
Yeah. I'm also launching, it's getting manufactured at the moment. I'm launching a new product for myself.
Exciting.
Yeah, which is kind of an extension. It's a home product, an extension on the embroidery idea with the stools, but it's not a furniture piece. So I was hoping that would be done before Christmas, but might end up being Valentine's Day or something.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah. So that'll be cool.
Well, Kelly's certainly inspirational with all the facets going on. That's wonderful. Before we wrap, I did want to jump into the Her Edit question.
Yes.
Can you remember a first design or art-related purchase you ever made?
Yes.
You've got lots of great pieces.
I was trying to think of what the first thing was, but there used to be this really cute little store on Smith Street called Little Prince. It was like a Japanese. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
it was
I remember that.
Japanese kind of, not a tea shop, but Japanese. They had lots of Japanese products.
Like beautiful.
And he always had this epic, it was like a 1970s, a big globe lamp with an orange base, and it's like this huge thing. And I used to work around the corner at Jackie Winter, and I always used to walk past in my lunch break and buy some stationery from him or whatever, and always ask about that lamp. And he was always, no, it's not for sale, it's not for sale. And I just kept asking.
I'm back.
And then one day, I've still got it. And then one day he was like, fine. And he gave it to me for $400. And now I look at it, and he could have got thousands of dollars for that lamp. But that was probably one of my, first like memory of a design purchase.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And then I also, and then one day I bought an orange rug from Loom, which was like my first expensive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was in an orange phase, so that that rug didn't stick around for very long.
More a moment.
Yeah, but that was definitely a big, like, an adult purchase, you know, unfortunately orange.
There was something
but still beautiful.
We got given a space furniture voucher very generously from some friends for our when we got engaged, and my husband's normally very, like, he'll be like, if there's a piece of furniture or whatever, you make the decision. And we were looking at one of those Edra mummy chairs. And I was working at Hecker Guthrie at the time, and I was just like, we were really into Edra, and I was like, I think we should get red. And that was the one time I was really glad he sort of stopped me. He said, oh, look, I just feel like maybe a safer colour.
Longevity.
It was funny. I was thinking, what are you questioning me? But that was, I think red would have been a bit challenging. Yeah. Next travel destination, actual or aspirational?
So I'm going to Bay of Islands for Christmas this
beautiful.
year. But then I'm also going to the Philippines in January, which I've never been
amazing.
there before. Yeah. So
like resort kind of relaxed.
Yeah, like full cocktail at 11 a.m. kind of by the pool situation.
Perfect.
Yeah, for 2 weeks. So that'll be fun.
A favorite creative icon, living or legend?
Do you know what? I found this question really hard because I don't really idolize people, and I don't really
Yeah.
like I don't really tune in and follow people. But I was thinking Nick Cave and Susie Cave.
Oh,
Like I
yeah.
love how he is such an it's like he's a poet and a writer and a singer. But I love how like as a pair they really kind of you can just see like they are full expression of everything that they love and everything that they believe in. And I love how, good or bad, they manage to find a positive in what's happening.
Yeah,
and they
because they've
turn
had
it
a
into
really
their
rough
art. Yeah, well, because their son
run.
died.
Yeah.
But I love how he like turns it into poetry or turns it into music. And I just really admire people who are so true to like who they really are as people.
Yeah.
And so that's why I really love them.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love that. Final question. If your star was a celebrity, who would
See,
it
this
be?
one I find even harder because I don't follow, other than I follow Dua Lipa on Instagram because she has like fun holiday outfits, but I don't.
I know, she's always got good nails.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm not in any way involved with celebrity culture, and I was like, fuck,
That's
I can't
quite
think of-
refreshing.
I was like,
Yeah.
I can't think of any celebrities. But then I was thinking maybe like Julianne Moore. Like I love how
she's
she
gorgeous.
is so like in her feminine and quite sophisticated, but she also has an element of like play about her. And I also really like how she is kind of timeless. Like she seems like influenced by the past, but also really modern at the same time. And if I'm thinking of my home style, it is kind of classic, but then there's a lot of collected stuff along the way, and then there's
Yeah.
a little bit of fun stuff or a little bit that doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
match. So I think her.
And do you know what? This is a really random story. I was in New York with a girlfriend a couple of years ago, and we walked past the row.
Oh yeah.
We thought we can't possibly afford anything in here, but we're just going to go and have a look at the
Yeah.
store fit out. Anyway, we went in there and the shop assistant said, "Oh, look, girls, we're just going to shut the front door."
Was it Julianne Moore?
Julianne Moore was in
Oh,
there
wow.
with a cap on, and it was so funny. We were standing in there, and I was like elbowing my friend who's trying this bag on. I'm like, oh my God. And it was so obvious because we were the only two people in there, that she just gave us the most megawatt smile.
Oh yeah, she seems like
and
she's
was
really
so
nice.
lovely. So
Yeah.
I think that feeds into your
Okay, cool.
kindness to
Oh,
everyone.
that's good.
I know that was our brief encounter. We're
I
like,
was just like, who's
like,
a
we need to
celebrity?
buy
Who's
something.
a celebrity that I know anything about?
no, she's a good one. Thank you so much for your
Hey,
time
thank
today,
you so much for
Kelly.
having me.